This week's episode is sponsored by civic engagement podcast Future Hindsight, who are back with an all-new season on systemic racism in the United States. Each week, they'll explore how the legacy of colonialism still permeates our country and how we can rectify it. Tune in this week to learn about America's disturbing history of child separation and removal, both from immigrants and U.S. citizens. Listen to Future Hindsight wherever you get your podcasts.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. My name is Emma Vigeland in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program, John Fetterman, candidate for U.S. Senate and current Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, joins us to talk about his race today. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump released a statement calling for new leadership in the Republican Party, calling Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell a dour, sullen, and unsmiling political hack, and attacking McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, who used to serve in his administration despite McConnell's no vote on Trump's conviction. Yikes. Around 3 million Texans continue to face dangerous and deadly power outages, as authorities say they have no idea when power will be restored. With more ice storms coming, Republican officials continue to falsely blame green energy and not their own lack of preparedness, while the state is nearly 90% reliant on fossil fuels. President Biden held a town hall in Wisconsin last night where he signaled some resistance to watering down his $1.9 trillion stimulus proposal, while also rejecting Chuck Schumer and Senator Elizabeth Warren's proposal to cancel $50,000 in student debt. More on that later. Meanwhile, a White House spokesperson confirmed that the Biden administration is looking into using the mega corporation Amazon for vaccine distribution. Sounds like a bad idea. Speaking of Amazon, county officials in Alabama confirmed that Amazon changed traffic lights in order to thwart union canvassing with workers who were stopped at the light. Dystopian stuff. Fast food workers in 15 cities from St. Louis to Tampa to Chicago to Charleston went on strike yesterday, demanding a $15 minimum wage. The French National Assembly has passed an anti-separatist bill that ostensibly criminalizes acts of Muslim extremism, but is really an attempt to further marginalize Muslims in France, monitoring mosques, and for Emmanuel Macron to throw red meat to a right wing that could be congealing around Marine Le Pen, who is far right. And lastly, anti-coup protesters in Myanmar continue to flood the streets, breaking records with the sheer number of demonstrators in Yangon. All this and more on today's program. Welcome, everybody, to the show. We have a great show for you today. We started a little bit early because John Fetterman, a very promising candidate for the United States Senate, is going to be joining us at 12:15, and we want to accommodate that because I'm very excited about that interview. He's a true progressive and has a real shot in Pennsylvania. But firstly, we have to touch on the inordinate amount of propaganda coming out of the right wing when it comes to the power outages that we're seeing throughout the country, in Texas specifically. So Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, went on Fox News last night blaming green energy. He got the memo from Breitbart, from the Wall Street Journal, from Fox News, from all the right-wing media that has decided to basically coordinate an attack on green energy that is entirely counterfactual, not connected to reality at all. he got that memo and regurgitated it last night, contradicting his own energy department on Sean Hannity's program.
Gas, oil, old-fashioned oil, and coal. I'm not against nuclear energy either. I'm not against wind turbines. But my question is, if they have these rolling blackouts and you got freezing weather, and they're not reliable and it's use it or lose it, what good is it?
Sean, this shows how the Green New Deal would be a deadly deal for the United States of America. Texas is blessed with multiple sources of energy, such as natural gas and oil and nuclear, as well as solar and wind. But you saw from what Trace said, and that is our wind and our solar got shut down, and they were collectively more than 10% of our power grid. And that thrust Texas into a situation where it was lacking power in a...
We got to just cut in here. 87% of the loss was down to things like natural gas pipes freezing, right? 13% was because of renewables. 87% is because of fossil fuel stuff. So,
he says 10% there, but then continues to blame it purely on green energy. And then keep going. We'll break it down after.
Power grid, and that thrust Texas into a situation where it was lacking power in a statewide basis. That was power that was spread out by that ERCOT organization that you were talking about. As a result, it just shows that fossil fuel is necessary for the state of Texas as well as other states to make sure that we will be able to heat our homes in the wintertime and cool our homes.
It actually shows the opposite, dude, because your own energy department, as I mentioned before the clip rolled, stated that the outages were primarily, overwhelmingly, because of frozen devices at natural gas and coal facilities and even nuclear facilities. Not because of the 10% that you cite. I mean, he steps on his own point there by pointing out that it is a tenth of the energy that they produce. And part of the problem, too, is that ERCOT, which is Texas's power grid, it was set up to avoid federal regulation because the federal government has the ability to monitor and control in some ways and regulate interstate electrical grid. They have a jurisdiction over that, right? But because Texas just did it within their own state and it didn't cross state lines, they were able to kind of run rampant and do whatever they wanted with ERCOT. And so, what do you know? Without that federal regulation, it was entirely unprepared. And it doesn't even cover all of Texas, too. El Paso is on another grid, I believe. Some of East Texas is on another grid. So it's both inefficient, it's ineffective, and obviously what Greg Abbott is saying is a complete lie. Matt, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, it's a desperate lie for the industries that put, people into places like Texas legislatures. Here's just a bit more. ERCOT expected to get low capacity factors from wind and solar during winter peak demand. What it didn't expect is over 20 gigawatts of outages from thermal, mostly natural gas power plants. We went over this yesterday, but this is literally fracking infrastructure freezing in the pipes. Like this is, and they need to go on offense about this because, this stuff should come crumbling down by rights. The oil industry should be destroyed because of it's not serving us. And so they have to lie about this. And the biggest lie of my lifetime has been the lies about climate change, right? And this is just a continuation and a more desperate version of that.
Well, absolutely. And we're not just seeing it from politicians, as I mentioned. Tucker Carlson continues to blame wind energy on this, where Matt made this point to me before the show. Many of cold countries, Greenland, Iceland, Denmark, all of these nations that are a lot colder than Texas, they rely much more on wind energy, but they have solar.
Here's wind turbines in Antarctica, for instance.
Yeah, wind turbines in Antarctica. They have wind turbines that unfreeze themselves. They have technology that, like, say you go on a plane on a cold day, right? They defreeze the plane. They do that, and helicopters have this technology too in Sweden, as Matt mentioned to me, that are able to unfreeze themselves. And so
the windmills, yep.
The windmills. I'm sorry. Did I say
helicopters?
Helicopters. Yeah. Yep. So it's just all ignorance and performative performative attacking of the left. It's a way for them to go around in circles and attack the Green New Deal. But here's Tucker Carlson with his snide dismissal and continued propaganda effort.
So, unbeknownst to most people, the Green New Deal came to Texas. The power grid in the state became totally reliant on windmills. Then it got cold and the windmills broke, because that's what happens in the Green New Deal. You're without power. Millions are still without power tonight. Several have died. Now, the same energy policies that have wrecked Texas this week are going nationwide. They're coming to your state.
Okay. There are so many lies there, I don't even know what to say. Totally reliant? 10%. Greg Abbott just said it. I don't know whose program comes on first. I think Tucker comes on after Sean Hannity. But if you watched beforehand, you would see that his own guest, the governor of Texas, said 10%. And all of the data, their own agencies are saying that, no, this is not the main cause of this.
Well, this is a good example of when Sam says that Tucker doesn't really believe what he's saying. Tucker doesn't really believe that the Green New Deal came to Texas already.
Yes, exactly. He doesn't. But again, I mean, what gets him off, sorry to give that, to use that terminology, but what gets him his buzz going in terms of the work that he does is basically hitting those cultural points that resonate with his audience. I mean, that's what he is. He's an emotional actor, or he occupies a space that allows his viewers to feel a certain emotion about things. And that's rage, and that's hate of change, and that's what he likes to spark in people. That's what fulfills him career-wise. And so
I would
sort of intellectual.
Right. I mean, yeah, just to add to that, propaganda is not about the facts or details, but it's about the attitudes created. So Tucker doesn't care about the details of, if Texas actually has some sort of Texas. I mean, we don't really have time to get into it, but there's a Texas Tribune article about how much they've ceded to the market on things, and have the scarcity of energy is because it's good for certain people with money that like to trade these things.
And by the way, this has been happening over the weekend, this kind of propaganda effort, and it's going to continue, and cable news is still going to be talking about, most of cable news, non-Fox, and the news in general, kind of trying to squeeze every last drop out of the Trump era and QAnon and talk about that constantly. And then in a week, 40% of the country is going to believe that wind turbines, frozen wind turbines, and green energy cause this disaster that we're seeing in Texas. This deadly disaster where nearly 30 people have died that we know about already. People freezing to death in their homes. And they're going to think that's because of green energy. Because the media were so siloed, and also because the right-wing media, they did it quick. They got themselves together. And this is the effort that they're putting forth, and it's effective, unfortunately, for all of us. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by John Fetterman.
So, folks, I think you know that I've gotten a little bit obsessed with dental hygiene. I don't want to say obsessed, but I've gotten very, very conscientious about it in my older years, as I've gotten longer in the tooth, as it were. I think you get what I'm saying there. So what do? You brush, right? And you got to brush well. You floss. This is hugely important. And boy, do I have a great new flossing system, but I'll get to that in a second. Well, what about chewing gum? Yeah. Gum is completely underrated when it comes to better oral health. The ADA, the American Dental Association, recommends chewing sugar-free gum for 20 minutes after meals. Well, so what do I do to maintain this entire program of dental health? I turn to Quip. That's right. You know Quip. They make the very cool toothbrushes that are super convenient to use and electric, and so they clean your teeth well. And they also make what I happen to think is the greatest invention I have ever seen, which is the flosser. They make a non-disposable flosser. They have not had me read about that yet, but they sent it to me, and I'm sorry, I'm obsessed with it. Well, they also now have gum. Quip's new gum is actually good for your oral health, and it comes in a dispenser that is going to remind you of one of those Pez dispensers. Yes, it's awesome. It's like it's like a Pez dispenser. I don't know how else to describe it. One press, the gum comes shooting out. It's awesome. My kids love it. They're into chewing gum. I only let them chew sugarless, of course. And this Pez dispenser drops it out, makes it fun. Also, I can carry it in my pocket, and I don't have to worry about pulling the gum out and seeing that it's got all sorts of lint in it and stuff like that. Quip gum can help prevent cavities, and, of course, it freshens your breath. You chew it 20 minutes after eating. It's sugar-free. It's tooth-friendly xylitol. Has 0 calories. And it has, I don't know, like a delicious mint flavor. This way, you can be extra hygienic. You're not creating any garbage. The quick release, what I call Pez-style button, means you can share with your friends, but you don't have any wrappers. You don't have to touch them in any way. You pair Quip gum with their electric toothbrushes. They're amazing. I can't believe they haven't. I know I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but they have a refillable flosser that is just, it is a complete marvel of science as far as I'm concerned. They also deliver fresh brush heads and floss and toothpaste refills every 3 months for $5. Shipping's free, so you can save money and skip the store. Every single member of my family has a Quip now. My kids, they have a smaller head for the kids, watermelon toothbrush that they send. My sisters, everybody. But I'm the only one with the flosser. But now they're all getting the gum too. So if you get quip.com/majority report right now, or I should say if you go to quip.com/majority report right now, you get a free plastic dispenser with any refill plan. That's a free dispenser at getquip.com/majority. Spelled GETQUIP, getquip.com/majority. You get a free dispenser, and then you just have your gum delivered on a regular basis. Quip, it's the Good Habits Company. Now back to Emma.
Thanks so much, Sam. And I would like to welcome to the program John Fetterman, who is the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania and has been since 2019 and is currently running for Senate. Pat Toomey is retiring and his seat will be available in 2022. How are you doing today, John?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm, as a progressive, I'm excited about your candidacy, and it's great to talk to you today, especially given what's going on in Texas and throughout the country, and the fact that you've signed a no fossil fuel money pledge. So you're a great person to talk to about this. But I wanted to start off with a recent story about you and Governor Wolf and how you both decided to grant clemency to 13 people serving life in prison, including 2 men who committed a carjacking in 1980. The woman died of a heart attack. Can you talk about that decision, why that's been so central to your tenure, and those kinds of moves as Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, great question. This was centered around 2 brothers from Philadelphia who made a really bad choice one day in 1980 to carjack somebody. He was an older gentleman, and they approached him with a non-functional weapon and said, "We want your car." And they got in the car with him, and he began to develop some heart pains. And they said, "Well, take your medicine. We don't want the." And they dropped him off at a payphone. And then subsequently later, he died of a heart attack. So without a doubt, those men have culpability. They should not have done that. But at the end of the day, they were offered a plea deal of 10 years. If they plead to it, and their lawyer said, "Well, we can get a better deal. This isn't right." So they ended up getting convicted of second-degree murder, and they have spent 40 years in prison, and they were going to die in prison, but for my intervention to get them before to the governor's desk. And what's also remarkable about this story too is the victim's daughter said that if you don't let these men out, my family will never be able to heal. My family doesn't want this. These two men do not deserve to die in prison. They shouldn't have done what they did, but they had no point wanted to harm her father, and they recognize that. And it's so amazing when you look at 84% of the people serving life without parole in Philadelphia are Black. And, these two brothers and others, there were many other on that list in that same situation. And the governor and I got them out. And that is the core philosophy for me, is believing in second chances and redemption, and how we need to put a lot of the wrong injustices like second-degree murder in Pennsylvania, and we need to fix them.
Right. I mean, I think that's an amazing story. And would you bring that kind of philosophy to your Senate campaign? How would you communicate that statewide and make it clear to your constituents why this is a just cause?
Sure, very much so. I mean, let me be clear. I'm the first lieutenant governor in the history of Pennsylvania that's completely reimagined and revolutionized the pardons and commutation process here in Pennsylvania, because we want to make sure that we're getting the justice part right. If we could get rid of second-degree murder, whereas you have somebody who was sitting in a getaway car serving the same effective sentence of dying in prison as the Tree of Life shooter, why wouldn't we want to do that? We need to remember that people age out of crime. We are in the forgiveness business with respects to commutations. We are not in the perpetual punishment business. And my commitment to criminal justice reform is stronger than anyone else's that could get into this race, because I've actually been doing it. And the work that the governor and I have done in these last several years has helped revolutionize the idea of a second chance here in Pennsylvania.
That's great. I think obviously Trump got a lot of headlines for granting clemency to people, but did nothing substantive on the issue. And it would be great to have another voice in the Senate who was pushing for that. So I wanted to turn to what's happening more concentratedly, I guess, in Texas right now with the extreme weather that we're seeing, which scientists have said it's a result of climate change. As the Arctic heats, you're going to have a frequency and the intensity as well of storms like this. You've signed a no fossil fuel money pledge. I wanted to open up that broadly. What is your take on what's happening in Texas? And then also just the fact that the right wing has seemingly coalesced behind a propaganda narrative about how this is the result of green energy, which is completely disconnected from facts. So what are your thoughts on what's happening nationally right now?
Sure. Well, it wasn't long ago before Texas was mocking and pointing at California and look at the troubles they're having with their power grid, and cue the massive failure of Texas's own power grid. I mean, they have their own power grid in Texas. So this is completely a homegrown situation in Texas. And the truth is, to your point, is divorced from reality. All the energy sources are down. It's not just green. The petroleum and natural gas have been frozen out too. So let's be very clear about that. This is a crisis of infrastructure. This speaks perfectly to the idea that we need to invest trillions in revolutionizing green energy, our infrastructure, and make sure that it's done, it preserves the sanctity of the union way of life. Think of all the union jobs for men and women that kind of a project of that kind of scope will create. And I'm not surprised that the Republicans are using this as an opportunity to bash green energy. I mean, especially in Texas. I mean, look at how honest they were about voter fraud in this last election.
Meaning not at all. Yes.
Yeah. So this is an enormous opportunity and a wake-up call. One, climate change is real and it must be acted on rapidly. That we need to invest trillions in revamping our infrastructure with respects to our power grid. And two, me signing this pledge is consistent with the person I've always been. I signed this in every race where it was an available option to do. And I want to be clear, I have never, ever, nor will I ever take a single dime from the industry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally muted myself. You're running on small dollars, correct?
Correct. Our average campaign contribution, we've raised or approaching $2.2 million in a little about 5 weeks, and it's 100% grass powered. Over 70,000 individual donors with an average donation of under $30, and I'm so proud of that fact because there's not a lot of $2,800 checks in there, because it speaks to the strength of the message, and it speaks to the strength of the movement, and it speaks to the integrity of which this election is going, because I can't think of anything more democratic than saying, hey, John, here's $25 because I believe in what you're running on. And I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, you can credit the Bernie Sanders campaign for kind of normalizing that kind of campaign donation. You endorsed him in 2016. Speaking of this 2020 race that just happened, Joe Biden angered a lot of people on the left by refusing to ban fracking, and he continues to do so, not just on the campaign trail. It wasn't just a campaign slogan. He seems to be committed to that as president. Many people speculated that was an effort to win over Pennsylvania. How does that square with your commitment not to take fossil fuel money and your belief that we should be kind of moving towards a massive amount of green energy infrastructure?
Great question. First of all, fracking, especially when it's done recklessly the way it can be, it is incredibly destructive to the environment. And that's one of the many reasons why I've never taken a dime from that industry, because no one can say, well, it's because he's bought and paid for by an industry. And that's just not true. The position here in Pennsylvania is more nuanced than that, where it's like right now, we have to acknowledge that we must transition away from these fossil fuels, and we must embrace green energy on a more sustained level. But we also must recognize that we have to honor and safeguard the union way of life for these workers that are currently here in Pennsylvania, and also the transition for those workers into these new sectors and new technologies where it can't be perceived as, well, good luck, learn how to code, put in a resume at Google. That's just not true or what's fair. So the reality on the ground is more nuanced than that. And Joe Biden understood that. But at the end of the day, Joe Biden carried Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania fundamentally believes that he will do the right thing, and he will make the tough decisions when it's appropriate, but he'll also split the difference and navigate a path that is also more nuanced and principled.
Yes, I understand that. You've mentioned union way of life a few times, and I read on your campaign website that you've cited that as well. Can you talk about more specifically how you would bolster unions if you were to win the race in 2022? As a progressive, think about unions are one of the most progressive inventions in the history of modern times. It's so simple, but it's so revolutionary to this idea that workers have rights, that workers deserve to share in the wealth that their work creates. I mean, that's revolutionary because now you could take it for granted. But back then, especially where I live, that wasn't a given. Men and women died to achieve that. So let's be clear about that. And I will never understand, whoever they are, why you would seek to destroy, diminish, or eliminate the union way of life. I mean, it singularly built our middle class. And, no one seems to care about how rich billionaires get or what the CEO pay is, but we bristle when we talk about a living wage or we talk about union rights and union protections. I'll never understand it. And whenever there is a vote, whenever that would come up, whether it's stand with the union way of life or against it, there's no choice. I would always stand with the union way of life, just like we do in Pennsylvania. The governor and I are the first and second line of defense because the Republicans were eager to take Pennsylvania right to work. And they're going to have to pry the pen out of my finger because it's never going to happen so long as the governor and I are on that watch. So, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that dynamic. The Republican Party in your state, people might say it's extreme relative to the fact that, Pennsylvania can go either way in the presidential race. But to me, it's just emblematic of what the Republican Party's become nationally. I mean, they have obstructed the Democrats, and the fact that, you have a Democratic lieutenant governor, Democratic governor, and it's been a struggle ever since really the schism erupted, but also it was highlighted more nationally in the presidential election. Can you talk about the challenges you face with the Republican Party controlling the legislature in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Well, they've controlled it through a gerrymandering process that they instituted back in 2010. So it created a disproportionate advantage in that respect. But where they are now is they are the party of obstruction and lies. And this last cycle was never more true. These same people, whether it's our congressional delegation or whether it's the state senators and state reps, were all claiming that, most of them were claiming that it was rigged. This is crazy. Not my race. I was on the same ballot as Joe Biden, but the voters love me, but Joe Biden, it was rigged. It's just absurd and logically bankrupt. In fact, a couple of them were even at the Capitol Hill riots on January 6th. One of the most vocal ones, in fact, Doug Mastriano. So it really comes down to this fundamental truth that Republicans will gerrymander, Republicans will alter the Constitution, Republicans will lie and spread misinformation when the votes don't go their way. And that's what they're attempting to do by gerrymandering our state Supreme Court, which they had no problem with until we won in 2015. And now all of a sudden they're activist judges, and it's an outrage that more of them don't live in different parts of the state. So they are shameless, and it's tragic because gerrymandering is fundamentally anti-democratic. And by that, I mean to the American way of governance, the true will of the people. And the Republicans are democracy for me, but not for thee.
Two more questions. I wanted to ask you to expand on your stance on healthcare because I know you've been supportive of Medicare for All in the past. You talk about how healthcare is a human right on your campaign platform. What is your stance on healthcare? Are you supportive of universal health?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. It really comes down to it's a fundamental human right. I challenge anybody to say that you are not going to need healthcare at some point in your life. I mean, it's no different than food or shelter or education. It's something that any civilized, certainly affluent society as ours should not recognize that. Now, what that looks like, if there is a vote, I want to be clear, if there is a vote that would generate and create Medicare for all, I'm going to make that vote. If there is a vote to achieve it through another mechanism, whatever way we can inculcate that into the fabric of our society, I'm here for. I've always been outraged that the men and women that are making these laws and these decisions have government-funded healthcare, and they seem to enjoy it. So to vote against the interests of healthcare for every American seems not only hypocritical, but deeply un-American and unfair. So that, I am here to stand with the truth that healthcare is a fundamental human right.
Thank you. And lastly, because I know you have to go, I saw you referred to as a populist, and I think, the right wing and Donald Trump have kind of thwarted that word, and it can be very broad. I don't even know if the right wing can be populist. That's my view. But I can see how somebody might refer to you as a populist. Do you embrace that label? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you in your tenure as lieutenant governor? And what would it mean to you as senator if you were to win?
Sure. Yeah, it's funny the way the Republicans try to say populist, the guy that sits on a solid gold toilet and spent, tens of millions of dollars golfing at a country club. Only the Republicans could spin that narrative. But the truth is, I don't really focus on labels. I focus on universal truths, like we spoke, that a living wage, like healthcare is a basic right, that marginalized communities and places need investment and they deserve to be uplifted. I believe that LGBTQIA rights are fundamental. I mean, this idea that they don't deserve equal protection under the law is deeply un-American. Immigration, my wife's immigration story, we need a compassionate immigration protocol that acknowledges that immigration makes America, America, and ending this war on drugs, legalizing marijuana as a party. Like when South Dakota is to the right of our party, the Democrats, we need to just say, hey, maybe we need to be a little more proactive on these things. So there isn't one area where it might be labeled progressive or populist, but to me, these are the truths that I've been championing, the people, policies, and places for the last 20 years that I've been in Braddock.
Thank you so much, John Fetterman, Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania and candidate for United States Senate in 2022. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for our time.
Thank you. All right, folks. Sound like Sam?
Great job, Emma.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you in a sec.
Sorry, my fault.
It's okay. I don't know. I didn't tee you up for that.
My computer is freezing, so I might just do the music.
All right. Well,
all right, we're back.
So what people don't realize, it's just me and Matt this week. Brendan is away as well, or on vacation.
Brendan's getting his own much-needed vacation.
Yes, Brendan. You know, he deserves it, and so we're a little bare bones here, but I thought that was great. Really interesting candidate. So obviously, if you guys want to check more of him out, if you live in Pennsylvania, you can go to his website, all of that. So let's dive into this Biden town hall, shall we?
You know, I got to say, there's some breaking news while the interview was going on. We had a passing of one Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh passed away.
And Sam's not here?
And Sam's not here. That was the very first thought I had, too. Like, what a week for Rush Limbaugh to go out when Sam is absent.
Oh, my goodness.
I thought, yeah, do you have a sound drop?
I'll give him a shofar.
Not
deserving,
but... I thought maybe, you know, we obviously don't want to go too deep into it without Sam, but... I put a request out to Twitter for, you know, the clips to play upon his passing just to remember what kind of guy this was. And I think this is a good one. So this is him talking about Michael J. Fox, who I should note has Parkinson's. Or had Parkinson's.
In this commercial, he is exaggerating the effects of the disease. He is moving all around and shaking, and it's purely an act. This is the only time I have ever seen Michael J. Fox portray any of the symptoms of the disease he had. He can control himself enough to stay in the frame of the picture, and he can control himself enough to keep his eyes right on the lens, the teleprompter. But his head and shoulders are moving all over the place. So this is really shameless, folks. This is really shameless of Michael J. Fox.
Indeed. Now, a person who is... Go ahead.
No, very shameless to exhibit the symptoms of the disease that you have.
Yeah, a person who is not acting is Rush Limbaugh, who is actually dead. He's not acting about that. And I will just say, as somebody who had extended family who got their brain poisoned by this freak, he will not be missed. And thank God that he's off the airwaves, misleading people into just hate and bigotry. And what a disgusting person. If somebody I am somebody who believes very much in free speech. I think the way that the right wing and money in general and reactionary money has bastardized it in basically our lifetimes to create like Limbaugh and Fox News, basically jeopardizing all those ideals people should hope to care. I think good riddance on Rush Limbaugh being gone.
Well, look, I mean, we're not going to lionize Rush Limbaugh, and I'm sure he has family and friends that miss him, but this is the guy that peddled birther conspiracies nonstop, was instrumental in that gaining mainstream, to coin the term feminazi, which was, I think, toxic to feminist discourse for 5 years or so. I would hear that all the time. I mean, he was wrong on everything. Climate change. He was pro-Iraq war. He has not just towed the Republican Party line for his entire life. He has actively spread misinformation and conspiracy theories. He was Alex Jones before Alex Jones even came about. And he had a way bigger platform because he was syndicated on talk radio. So, let's not pretend he isn't what he was. He was a monster, as Matt said. So perhaps he did not deserve that shofar, right?
I mean, I think we can all agree it was an ironic shofar. And I mean, I think just the game now is to see who tries to rehabilitate him.
Wait, this is Rush Limbaugh going to hell.
I would watch that video.
Yeah. Dropped right through the doors. Sorry.
Bad news for certain pharmaceutical salespeople in the Dominican Republic, though. So
yes, but other drug addicts, not him. Other drug addicts are bad people and deserve to be in prison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yikes. All right. Well, glad we didn't hold back. But it is truly tragic that Rush Limbaugh has passed and Sam is no longer here for it, or
exactly
not here for it. But yeah, let's get into that Biden town hall because there is a lot to cover, I would say. We good?
Cool.
Okay. So Joe Biden had a town hall in Wisconsin last night. He is hitting the road to, I mean, I don't even know why hit the road for this, but I guess you got to do that stuff as president. We're in the middle of a pandemic, but I digress. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but Wisconsin, important to Democrats. He went there to kind of tout his $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, shied away from saying, I'm not going to accept anything less, but I wouldn't expect that from Biden. There were some good moments in the fact that he said we need to go bigger, but there were some bad moments as well. Let's get into the good and let's get into the bad. Here he is on CNN telling Anderson Cooper that everybody agrees we need to go big on stimulus.
Committed to passing $1.9 trillion bill, or is that final number still up for negotiation?
I'm committed to pass. Look, here's some of you are probably economists or college professors or you teach it in school. This is the first time in my career, and as you can tell, I'm over 30, the first time in my career that there is a consensus among economists, left, right, and center, that is and including the IMF and in Europe, that the overwhelming consensus is in order to grow the economy a year, 2, 3, and 4 down the line, we can't spend too much. Now's the time we should be spending. Now's the time to go big. You may recall I managed the last experiment we had with stimulus, and it was no, I don't mean it that way, but it was $800 billion. We thought we needed more than that, and we think we did. It ended up working, but it slowed things up by about, and depending who you talk to, between 6 months and a year and a half. We can come back. We can come roaring.
I mean, that is he's about to say we can come roaring back in a few years. That is a shocking admission there from Biden, where he's not going to all out say that the stimulus package that was passed during the recession when he and Obama came into office was too small. But he is sort of saying it there. I mean, he's acknowledging that they kind of learned from their mistakes here. And when he said,
yeah, though it was, what did he say? Like, it was good enough, but it could have been like, that's him covering for that, not saying that explicitly.
Right. He has to hedge because obviously you can't criticize Obama in the Democratic Party. It's basically sacrilege. So he also doesn't want to tarnish his own involvement in that. So, okay, I'm fine with that kind of hedging. But the core of it is that he's saying everyone agrees we need to go big. And my critique, my frustration is that he needs to go by the consensus every single time. Like, back then, people were saying we need to go small. We were listening to Larry Summers, and now everybody else is saying, from left, center, right, that we need to go big on stimulus, and so that's the area that I'm going to go down. That's the path I'm going to go. I don't think that's leadership. I think you make determinations based on the information that you see, not based on consensus, but...
Yeah, I like the idea that like all these institutions that were wrong last time, that they think that we can do more this time. It's like, well, maybe add a few more. Don't like name check the IMF maybe.
Right, exactly. I mean, he's still going back to the well, but fortunately the well's no longer poisoned. And fortunately, Larry Summers, the, maggot at the bottom of the well, isn't the one calling the shots here. There seems to be a significant rebuttal of his kind of thinking, and that goes to show that Biden is a part of that, and he's not buying the same nonsense. And part of this, though, if we can't give them too much credit, is just self-preservation, right? Because they went small on stimulus during the Obama years, and they got their asses kicked for the next 6 by the Republican Party and the Tea Party wave. So it's not fully an altruistic and an intellectual exercise where they're weighing the way that the stimulus affected the economy and affected human beings. They're also looking out for themselves. That was part of why Biden and the Democrats in Georgia push forward the stimulus checks. Not that I don't think Biden ideologically fully agrees with it, but, who knows? So I'm nitpicking there because I'm so frustrated by the next clip that it's poisoned the well of my perspective on this town hall, I guess. So that was good. This goes to show maybe Manchin has cooled a little bit on his bizarre insistence that the income threshold should be lowered, leaving 40 million fewer people without checks. So 40 million people would have gotten checks under Trump, but not under Biden. Great electoral strategy there. Part of the self-preservation that I'm talking about here. But the infuriating part is that Biden could be helping even more people by the stroke of a pen, young people specifically, also often immigrants who are preyed upon by for-profit colleges that completely exploit them and milk them of their money and give them zero opportunities. He's not really going to do that to any significant extent, he revealed last night at the town hall.
My oldest son graduated after undergraduate and graduate school with $136,000 in debt after working 30 hours a week during school. My other son went to Georgetown and Yale Law School, graduated $142,000 in debt, and he worked for the parking service down in Washington. My daughter went to Tulane University and then got a master's at Penn. She graduated $103,000 in debt. So I don't think anybody should have to pay for that, but I do think you should be able to work it off. My daughter's a social worker. My other son ran the World Food Program USA, and so on. They didn't qualify. But my point is, I understand.
Hold on, pause it. Why didn't they qualify? If his daughter was just a social worker, I'm sorry, they have other wealth. Like, I don't even necessarily know. I am not trying to cast aspersions on his story here and his kid's experience. But yes, he may have said pay your own way through college. That may have been his kind of old school mentality. But the fact of the matter is his family has immense access to resources. Not the average family that's experiencing student debt. The average kid is not in the same stratosphere as what Joe Biden's kids are experiencing. But continue.
And so on. They didn't qualify. But my point is, I understand the impact of the debt, and it can be debilitating. And I think there's a whole question about what universities are doing. They don't need more skyboxes. What they need is more money invested in making. That's why I provide, for example, $80 billion, $70 billion over 10 years for HBCUs and other minority-serving universities, because they don't have the laboratories to be able to bring in those government contracts that can train people in cybersecurity or other future endeavors that pay well. But I do think that in this moment of economic pain and strain, that we should be eliminating interest on the debts that are accumulated, number one. And number two, I'm prepared to write off the $10,000 debt, but not $50,000.
Mr. President, let me ask you.
Because I don't think I have the authority to do it by sign of a pen.
That is total BS.
Yeah.
How do you think you have the authority by executive order to write off $10,000 but not $50,000? Where in the Constitution does that say, is that written? Where is that written? He's banking on people's ignorance about the issue. So this is what he's trying to do. He's threading this needle as like an old school debt-obsessed Democrat. This is what he made his bread and butter on. By the way, if students, if they had other protections, right, maybe this would be okay. Like the ability to not go bankrupt on these. Oh, wait, you got rid of that stuff. So, I mean, like, this is completely arbitrary. He's trying to make it seem like $50,000, that can only come through the House and the Senate, which it's not going to, because it's not going to be able to pass through the filibuster. So he just wants to do a little bit by executive order, if he even does that at all, the $10,000 elimination. It's
Ken Klippenstein.
Nonsensical. Go on.
Ken Klippenstein had the all you need to say is somewhere between 10K and 50K it becomes illegal. And Biden's like, I think, like, yeah, this is just a lie, right? And it's the same thing with when Saki, I don't know how to pronounce the name yet, said that, oh, we want to do 10K, but we want Congress to take the lead, which completely obscures the fact that Congress, and Schumer particularly, called for $50,000. So if you're going to take Congress's lead, which you pointed out why it's not really going to come out of it. Yeah, like it's just dishonesty to cover up, broken promises, or I don't know, not wanting. I don't know. They want to, I guess, let Schumer freelance because of his primary coming up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Schumer's making that determination. I think he's not going to fight Biden too hard on it, and they know that. And I think you're going to have some call-outs by Ocasio-Cortez on Twitter, like we saw last night, and that's about it. And the Biden camp's okay with that. And in the middle of this pandemic, I don't necessarily think in terms of like a political cost calculation that he's wrong, but it is wrong morally. It is an immoral position, and it's like this arbitrary desire by conservative Democrats like Biden to put restraints on oneself in order to appease some fiction of a moderate voter. I mean, most voters would be absolutely thrilled by the student debt. I mean, you're going to have old school people like saying, oh, well, I didn't have my debt eliminated, all of that. But like, no one's making their voting determinations on that.
Yeah. And I just think, I mean, he's a guy that's so internalized the purpose of these loans, which is to make people like labor stay coerced. So like he brags about his kids working 30 hours through college. And like, I'm sorry, I know semesters that I like worked and didn't work. And like, when I came to NYU, I took out a massive amount of loans where I didn't have to work during the summer. I learned the most because I didn't have to go also work 30 hours a week somewhere for like parking cars or whatever he said his kid was doing. And that is ideologically a bipartisan thing that we need to keep people, especially these young people, we need them locked in. We need a promise on their labor. So either they'll have to go work in the high income field for some capitalist, or we'll do some public service thing, but those requirements are super onerous. This is all about control, right? It's entirely about control, and Biden wants that control to remain.
Yeah, and it's control under the guise of reasonability and legal hurdles, as if he just canceled it tomorrow. Say a Republican wins next time around, they're going to be like, we're reinstating those thousands of dollars of student loans that people are... And guys, the government makes money off this too. That's also what's so sick about it.
They're the main profiter.
Yeah, the federal government is the number one, as Matt said, profiter off of student loan debt. And when he also, I'm not finishing my points, but I meant to make this point. I have so much to say about this. He said that we're eliminating interest. No, like they're pausing interest right now. It's going to come back once the pandemic is over. And then the government will keep making money on it. Like, he just wants to put the plug in for a little bit on the cash flow to the federal government, and then take it out once things kind of calm down a little bit. I mean, that's what that is too. And it's really gross in my view.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, do we have another clip we want to get to? Because we started a little early. Then we'll head into the fun half.
Well, we want to save the defund one for Jamie. Do you want to play this? Let's see. Sure. We have this. 7. Yeah, 7.
So this is relevant too because he addresses executive actions. Look at this through the context of what we just talked about with student debt.
Oh, shoot. Wait a second. I linked myself to the wrong one, but I think I can find it real quick.
No. Guys, don't. Look, it's just the two of us this week. You're going to have to bear with it. And honestly, it's more fun for you, right? You get to see a little bit into the window of our jobs.
You know what? I think we might have to can that one because the thread got messed up somehow, and I can't find it.
All right. Then we'll just head into the fun half now, and then we'll take your calls for a little bit. Sound good, Matt?
Yeah, it sounds great. Jamie will be joining us too.
Yeah. Let me say, too, check out the Antifada, Jamie's show. Check out Left Reckoning and everything that Matt is doing. You want to plug some of that stuff?
Yeah, I'll plug that. Maybe Jamie can, if she can hear this, she can join now. Left Reckoning, Grace Blakely and David Griscom had a big, long chat yesterday that we'll be playing for everybody tomorrow night. Very excited, talking about sort of the financialization of the global economy and how that is playing out with COVID and what kind of world we're going to be left with after all of this is done. So I've listened to only about half of it, but so far, but it is, one of our, a feather in a cap for Left Reckoning. We're very happy to get Grace on. So people will want to check that out, and patreon.com/Left Reckoning, because it's substantial enough where we might hold some back for patrons. I'm not sure. So if you want to get on that, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. And I think we can go. Oh, here's Jamie. She can, she will join us now, and she can give us plugs for the Antifada. Hello, Jamie.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Now we can see you. There you go.
Wonderful. So this week on the Antifada, Sean and I spoke with Marcus and Lorax from Left Flank Vets, talking a little bit about their experiences in the military, openings for revolutionary organizing in the U.S. Armed Forces. They gave us a bit of a prognosis on foreign policy under Joe Biden. Spoiler alert, not great. And some more stuff that I can't remember right now, but it was all very good, and you should check it out. Patreon.com/theantifada. Also, tonight at 7 p.m., twitch.tv/theantifada. We have our weekly main show. Forever is going to start tonight, which, we've appropriated the Bonnie Tyler song because we decided it's about abolishing capitalist time. So that's always a lot of fun. 7 o'clock.
To be honest with you.
What?
It's a great song.
Oh, yes. Well, it gets even greater when you realize that it's for comrades.
Right, exactly. That was her initial intent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we have a vaporwave version of it that we play. It's a lot of fun. Also tomorrow, I am launching Antifada Ladies Night, featuring the ladies of a very fun podcast called Beef Country, and we're going to be talking about Britney Spears. So check that out.
Did you watch that doc?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you think?
Oh my God, free Britney. That's all I got to say about that. I mean, it's fun to talk about. It's like trashy pop culture, but it's also serious. Like,
it's really like an indictment of like society's politics of control, or like the core system of control, misogyny. I remember like thinking about how we treated her as a society and feeling like it was wrong, and then just reliving that. I mean, we all should be ashamed.
Yeah.
Participating in it, even tacitly.
Yeah, dude, the stuff that people thought it was okay to say to her and to ask her is just...
Are you a virgin? Over and over again?
Stunning. Like, leave Britney alone. It's also about disability rights because, a lot of people didn't know how few rights people have under a conservatorship and how hard it is to get out of it.
And lastly, too, just about the last thing about the Free Britney doc is I wish there was more of a class analysis, because there clearly was like a white trash.
Oh yeah.
Kind of element that allowed the media to treat her in the way that they did and destroy her. She was, but she'll be back. I got faith.
Oh, she's an angel. She deserves so much better than she's gotten.
Agreed. All right, and I'll check out the Noma Key show. Twitch.tv/the_Noma Key _show. I'm not even reading from anything. I just remembered Sam's stilted cadence so well in my mind every time I plug it that I'm able to do it from memory.
Oh.
All right, guys, let's head into the fun half. See you there.
Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous? You're a little bit upset? You're riled up?
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude, you want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 eighths. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Ooh.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook.
Throw our hands up.
Ooh. Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey, shut up.
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
Welcome, everybody, to the fun half. Featuring Jamie Peck.
Woohoo!
All of us. How you guys doing today?
Sunday was an okay day, I guess. I recorded a podcast with my ex, who I am still technically married to. So technically, I recorded a podcast with my husband, which is pretty romantic if you think about it.
Very, very, very appropriate for Valentine's Day. Is that episode up already?
Yes, it is. It's up right now. And then I drank a bunch of wine and started watching the new Adam Curtis series, which is good. And I was not in the best of moods, but you know what? I beat the level. It's over now. So here we are.
I'm about to call in, guys. So calling
Jamie, what's this friend pillow situation behind you?
I was about to say, are those pillows?
Oh, yeah. Those are pillows with all my friends on them. This is really nice gift. Every year we do like a Christmas prom party and a Yankee swap. And I definitely got the best one this year because it's pillows with all my friends' faces on them. So when I'm sad, I can just hug my friends.
That's very sweet.
It's very funny. Like it has much more presence than just a picture on a wall.
Right?
People stuff them in a pillow.
I will take some calls in a second, but I just wanted to see, Jamie, what kind of red wine do you like, or what kind of wine do you like?
Oh, I've been really into orange wine lately.
I don't even know what that is.
It's really good. It's like opposite rosé. Like, I forget which is which. Like, one of them is like a red wine made like a white wine, and one of them's a white wine made like a red wine. But rosé is gross, and orange wine is really good. So,
gotcha. Yeah, no, I should check it out. I'm kind of set in my ways with wine. Like, I like Chianti for red wine, and then I have Sauvignon Blanc for white.
Those are classics.
I don't like fruity shit. Like, like rosé is too sweet for me. Like, what was it? Riesling.
Yeah, no. But try orange wine. You might like it. It's not sweet. It's tangy. It's weird. It can be a little funky. It's good stuff.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I actually will check it out. Let's take some calls, shall we? Calling from a 308 number. Who is this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Kowalski in Nebraska.
Kowalski in Nebraska. How are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. I just wanted to give you some updates from the prairie. We have been experiencing rolling blackouts in order to ensure the Texas grid doesn't go down. So, yeah, occasionally our houses will flicker off for 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh, man. So how have things been in your community?
Some people have had water lines freeze because of it, and I guess for me it's not too bad, but I guess I'm hardier than most, and at least have my own house out in the country, and if things ever got really desperate, I've got a generator, so sure, it's probably frightening for others.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy.
But we are looking up because it's about 20 degrees warmer than yesterday, so we're at like 5 degrees now, so it's getting better.
And your generator allows you to produce heat for your house?
If we needed it, but if it's only going to be down for 30 to 45 minutes, my house is fine, so.
Okay, all right, yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes...
But it's the peace of mind in the back of your mind. Also, just wanted to say, I think you're doing a great job hosting the show.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Jamie, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
All right, I will take this answer off the phone, but I'm just curious. We were having a discussion playing Call of Duty the other night. How exactly would the decommodification of food pay the farmers for their labor? Like, I don't know. I've just never been able to, conceptualize it. But anyways, thanks.
Sure, she'll answer. I'll hang up now. Oh, Kowalski, like a pro, hangs up himself.
Well, this is a very interesting question, and it's kind of one of my favorite games to play, luckily, thinking about how we're going to do various things in a post-capitalist world, which will hopefully someday come to pass. I mean, look, if we don't have wage labor and we don't have money anymore, the idea is from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs, right? And what that means is the people who work on the farms, they have everything they could possibly need already. They have food, they have shelter, they have fun things to do on the weekend, which will be many days longer than it is under capitalism. And in exchange for that, they do the kind of labor that they are capable of doing, whether that's working on a farm or whatever kind of socially necessary labor needs to get done. We're going to self-organize that. So I guess the short answer is you don't need to get paid if we don't have money anymore and everyone just has what they need. Sounds pretty good, right?
There you go, Kowalski. Hope you like that answer. I'm going to read some of these IMs and then we'll take one more call and then some clips. Sounds good to you guys?
Yeah.
So Boston Bernie Bro says, I toured a solar-powered house in Maine once. It had all new energy-efficient appliances, windows, and insulation, and a set of batteries in the garage to use at night. There was a charging meter that showed the roof panels were collecting energy even though it was an overcast day in January. This was a reference to the fact that right-wingers are continuing to attack energy infrastructure is unable to perform in cold weather. Good point, Bernie Broens from Boston, saying that we need a Green New Deal because this was in 1996. Me and My Pillow Guy says, does anyone else find it a little suspicious that the week that Sam goes on vacation, Rush Limbaugh suddenly dies? Did you hear this, Jamie? I'm a big fan of Sam's work, especially this week. I know the first thing Matt and I thought of was, damn, what a terrible week for Sam not to be here.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Chardonnay Socialist says, oh, lovely, smart, wonderful ladies. Rosé is not inherently sweet. Thank you for all of the adjectives. And there are some really great ones. Please let me know. Oh, it's scrolling down. Please let me know if you'd like to taste some Cheers Jacket free range wine. Thank you, Chardonnay Socialist. I generalize with rosé. I've liked some rosés in the past, but I generally just steer towards like as tart as it gets, and then just some more IMs really quick.
Look, if they want to try to make us like rosé by feeding us rosé, I'm fine with that.
Wine? Are you kidding me? Rest in piss is trending on Twitter. A fitting legacy for Rush Limbaugh, says Maddie Moron. All right, I'll read some more of these later. Let's take one more call and then head into some clips. Efficiency. That's what name of the game. All right. Hello, 410 number. Who is this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, is this Nathan from Maryland?
Yes. Hi, Nathan from Maryland. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well, and I must say, Emma, you've been doing a great job filling in for Sam. I normally enjoy Sam, but the best of all was the combination of you impersonating Sam yesterday. That was quite a good moment.
Yeah, you know, that was an accidental moment. Jamie, you might have missed it, but for the first 20 minutes of the show, when I was like a little nervous to kind of get everything together, there was a YouTube glitch where we sounded 4 octaves lower, and me and Matt.
Oh, dear.
I had an Elizabeth Holmes thing going on.
I thought you were going to say you impersonated Sam because, like, shit wasn't working, and you were like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's funny you should say that, though, because we had a very chill troubleshooting process, and it went kind of smoothly. Kyle was helping us out in the back end, and we got it all sorted out, I think, pretty impressively. And I don't think anyone was really doing the Sam shit, god damn it.
I get internally like quiet and anxious as opposed to outward expressions of, you know, fuck this, fuck that, whatever, you know,
right.
Equipment. Not that Sam does that, but
no, he does. So you're like
Sam's
opposite Sam, basically.
Yeah, Sam and my dad have the same thing where it's like you just kind of got to let them like output some of that frustration.
I'm sorry. Keep going, Nathan.
Yeah, anyway, I just kind of wanted to touch on a little bit of Twitter drama that's happened recently and give us a direction out. Away from the force of vote, away from all the sniping back and forth, because as we all know, it's really easy for somebody to piss into a tent when there are people trying to sleep in it. But it's a little bit harder to put up a tent of our own and actually build it and make a good shelter. So while everybody on Twitter is getting mad about who was on what side, our job as progressives is we can take advantage of the pandemic, and I said this last year on the show, and make meetings with Congress ourselves virtually in order to get more co-sponsors for Medicare for All. And this is something that Addie Barkon's been doing for a long time, and DSA chapters have been doing, including in Metro DC, and they actually started picking up a bit more on this after my previous call. And this is how we can try to get Medicare for All closer to being a viable piece of legislation for us to pass in the long term. And this is just so important because when the pandemic is going, Congress people have been starting to have meetings with constituents over Zoom. All you have to do is call your office, figure out who their healthcare staffer is, and send an email to that person, and you can get a meeting with them within the next couple weeks or so.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to emphasize that point. Yeah, continue.
No, I think that's a good idea and a good suggestion. I mean, obviously, it would be encouraging if we were able to have more direct access to politicians, but they make quite a bit of an effort to insulate themselves, with the exception of a few.
Yeah, that's precisely why this is so important, because really the staff is where the game is played in Congress so much of the time. And this is a period when...
I was going to ask, have you had meetings that you can tell us, like, or what's your experience been since the last time you called in?
Absolutely. Since the last time we called in, I've had a meeting with the Raskin office. I've met with the Van Hollen office, and we've met with one other office. It's jumping about Anthony Brown's office. And we've gotten good feedback regarding what would be necessary to get Jamie Raskin onto a bill regarding Palestinian rights that died in the last session just because the turnover happens every 2 years. And part of the big issue here right now is that so much of what's going on is in the agenda-setting stage. A friend of mine who was involved in a meeting with Ro Khanna's office recently managed to get Ro Khanna to start a bipartisan letter for the release of a prisoner in Egypt who is the head of BDS there. And this letter ended up with 51 signatures at the end after some pushing with the Khanna office and some finagling on his end. So even when it comes to smaller items like that, with getting a letter regarding the release of political prisoners, it's possible with meetings like this to bring Congresspeople's attention to important ideas. And this is just something that we need so many more people to get in on. And it's just, if nothing else, as I emphasized last time, every second you spend in a meeting with a member of Congress is a second that's being denied to somebody who's a lobbyist from Bank of America or Citigroup or some other malevolent corporation that we don't want them talking to. If nothing else, we can break that monolith, and at this early stage in the presidency, this is particularly important for us to get on now.
I appreciate the call. It's a great idea. Thanks so much.
I'm impressed that you have made progress that way, because my sense is that Congress people tend to be very contemptuous of their constituents, and they really just want to push them off to someone else or establish a bipartisan commission to never deal with the issue. I mean, I would only add that this is all a good thing. This is all good things to be doing. But if we want to expropriate 20% of the economy, which is what Medicare for All would do to the private insurance industry, we're going to also need to be building class power. We're going to be needing to be doing some direct actions, occupy the Capitol for Medicare for All, have a riot for Medicare for All. That's the synthesis, folks. We had riots over racial justice over the summer. Now, hey, maybe we'll force the vote on reparations and burn down a police precinct for M4A. That's the synthesis. That's the galaxy brain. I'm sticking to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I 100% agree. Both sides are absolutely necessary. And I'll just leave you with this. 2 more phrases that are trending on Twitter are good riddance and rotten hell, in addition to rest in piss. All right, have a good one.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, right. I think especially those issues, they talked about, was it getting somebody freed in Egypt? Like, especially on those types of foreign policy issues, you can occasionally get a staffer to, exercise some authority and do something. I think Jamie's right about the bigger economy-wide issues. That's going to take more than... I do like the strategy of occupying these people's time, because they do have a finite amount of time. And I think but ultimately they're going to find a way to meet with the money until we do something about the money.
All right, awesome. You want to get into that clip number 3?
Yeah. We got.
Yeah. So I just want to say real quickly, we don't need to play Bill Gates' answer here. I'm more just interested why Bill Gates is the spokesperson for all of green energy after getting his position in the economy off of monopoly. and intellectual property, being an intellectual property pirate. But the framing of this question is familiar to anyone who's been taking in the right-wing propaganda narratives about this Texas energy stuff.
The topic of electricity could not be more timely. Look at Texas. That's my home state where I grew up. More than 4 million customers are without power after this Arctic blast froze wind turbines. The Wall Street Journal today.
Again, like no empirical sense of where the actual shortage came from, which was fossil fuels, particularly natural gas.
Argues that this is the risk of trying to banish power after this Arctic blast froze wind turbines. The Wall Street Journal.
Owned by Rupert Murdoch.
After this Arctic blast froze wind turbines. The Wall Street Journal today argues that this is the risk of trying to banish fossil fuels. Is what's happening in Texas a sign of the limits of clean energy like wind?
Basically, no.
Okay, that's all.
That's all we need to hear from him, the foremost expert on green energy. But
and
the framing exactly right, Matt. Like, look at how they think they're the objective media. Go on.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. That's CBS, right? Like, you expect that from Tucker or Hannity or even the news people at Fox or even Fox Business. But the problem we have is, like, this is the media we have. It's all capitalists. It's all, I mean, and frankly, like, I hate to say this, but anchors, they should not be respected. Like, these people are basically teleprompter readers. I don't know. I forget that 80s movie is that basically got it right about sportscaster filling in for actual anchors who know things because they're better at delivering things. Like the whole thing about I'm from Texas. Well, it didn't make you have any deeper of an understanding of the energy problems in your state. So why do we even hear about this? Why do we even need to know you're from Texas? I mean, it's all because it's for affect. It's I don't know. It's terrifying, I think.
It's in order to garner some sort of credibility on this issue, as if like you have some sort of intricate knowledge of ERCOT and the power grid and the perils of green energy. And yeah, exactly. That sounded like a Fox News question, right? And who knows if she actually believes this? You never know from news anchors, as you say. They're fed a lot of these questions by producers. And the best case scenario for that question is that they're making some sort of effort to pose a right-wing question in the interest of objectivity. But obviously, that's counterfactual. In order to do that in this instance, she is treating misinformation and propaganda as some sort of fact. Green energy was not a factor here. This was the freezing, a great majority of which, of nuclear facilities, of coal facilities, and primarily of natural gas facilities, period, end of story. And look, I don't know. Is she and are her producers taking points from watching Fox News and getting this? I mean, this is
Wall Street Journal. They told you.
Right, exactly. This is like the old school way in which Drudge or something like that would seep into cable news. They repeat something enough that they get people in mainstream media who want to appear objective to treat their concerns as something as legitimate when they're in fact fake and propaganda, and they get people to believe it. I've been saying this since we covered this yesterday and since I saw some of this over the weekend. We are now going to see at the end of the week, like 35 to 40% of the country who blaming what is happening in Texas and in other states on green energy, when that's just not the case. And Norm Macdonald there just aided and abetted that complete spread of misinformation in the interest of, like, I don't even know.
And just like the horror, just hell of having Bill Gates being on the receiving end of it, as if climate change policy is something that's going to be undertaken by these managerial super oligarchs, and they're going to do what's best for us. Like, it's, you can't win with that, right? Like, because Bill Gates is horrible. Bill Gates is like, we shouldn't have some guy who, like I said, his entire authority in the economy of this country is predicated on him being an intellectual property pirate to the point where the DOJ got involved in the 90s. The DOJ was not exactly on an antitrust binge in the 90s. And Bill Gates got across, it was too much for them. And that now he gets to like buy up all the farmland and tell, apparently, reportedly, the Gates Foundation told, was it Cambridge, not to open source their vaccine?
Yes.
Like, this is a freak. This person should not get the economic say-so in terms of priorities in the world that he does.
But
he's the left. He's representing the left in climate change. So great.
He's a billionaire, so he has the credibility. So
it's horrible.
Yeah.
He has the credit, I would say, not the credibility.
Well, yes, that was my my New York area sarcasm for you.
That guy really bought himself a good reputation, and I'm excited anytime I get a chance to tear it down.
He's got everyone working for him. CBS News, Vox.
Oh God.
Hey Vox, let's do another like in-depth interview about what Bill Gates thinks about populations in Africa.
Oh my God.
As if that's just a normal thing to have Bill Gates opine about. Like,
oh my God. Yeah. No, don't get me started on that. I actually went to the National Portrait Gallery like a year ago, and I saw his portrait there. And it's like him, and I think his wife is in it. And then in the background, it's them with some like shoeless African children. And there's like a phrase across the top that says, "Every human life has value." I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah, and I just want to say, somebody mentions, like, isn't that why he's doing philanthropy? We need to make something clear about philanthropy. That is the give your money away with an asterisk that allows you to control it still. If Bill Gates wanted to give his money away, he'd give his money away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so paternalistic, exactly. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, Matt.
Oh, well, I mean, the only final point is, like, how much of that stuff is tax deductible anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Let's read some items.
Cool. I got this defund clip too.
Excellent. I want to do both of them.
Yeah, that's we'll do that right now. Or after this. After this. Okay. In honor of Russia's now permanently limp balls, I'd like to contribute a hypothetical fisticuffs with a kind of sports theme classic girl fight. Giselle Bundchen versus Shailene Woodley by Christo. So these are the wife of Tom Brady and the fiance of Aaron Rodgers. Shailene Woodley all the way. We like Shailene Woodley.
She's got the power of Gaia on her side.
Holy shit. I'm angry at Shailene Woodley, but that's... I have a crush on Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Now, what beer the majority of reporters drink? I drink Kiffler, said Emma's deep voice. Kilt lifter? I don't know what that is.
Kilt lifter, yeah.
I like good IPAs. Double IPA is a little too much for me. But recently, honestly, I've been what's that Mexican beer that kind of tastes like a more full-bodied Corona, and it has a
Bohemia?
Yellow label,
Modelo,
bottle,
Pacifico.
I've been into that lately. I don't know about you guys.
Mexican beers are always good.
I like Mexican beers that you can drink with a lime in them. I think IPAs are gross.
Yeah, no, I know they're not for everybody. But like I've kind of stopped drinking them because I think like they are fattening. In case you missed it, Rush died, and for once I say good riddance. He won't be missed. Eric from Iowa says, Swack says Trump takes over for Rush. Honestly, without his platform, I could totally see him doing radio. To be, like
he would do one day a week though.
Yeah, 100%. Or it would just like be in his living room or something like that. He wouldn't want to have to leave Mar-a-Lago for that. A like and subscribe says it's really frustrating to see Biden cross his arms and refuse to use his authority to cancel debt. I would like to do something more productive with my life than run on a debt treadmill, and college should be free in the first place. I'm taking inspiration from the Keystone XL and No DAPL protests. They kept the issue alive and used direct action to slow down the projects. It took years, and Obama didn't shut it down. He just slow-walked it until the end of his presidency. I'm ready for an equally long haul with Biden and want everybody fighting for student debt cancellation to keep a marathon mentality. Like and subscribe. That's like a really well thought out point on the matter.
Absolutely.
Shofar for my wife, Erin, 8 years off opioids, says Swack. Another lost issue within the chaos of the last administration. Medicare for all. Here is a shofar for Erin. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's... I do feel like there's a brief moment where like the Trump administration was talking about it, but I feel personally like I need an update on where we're at with the opioid epidemic in this country.
Yeah, definitely. Just a few more for right now. I'm reading it. How many Texas homes could a burning Limbaugh's corpse heat? Says Zero Sum Gay.
You get a bright flame from that.
That's broadcast news, says Kinch, which is a great movie. That was the movie you were referencing.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Yeah. Triangle Bill says, Emma, you're doing great. I just wanted to point out that you keep quoting the Wall Street Journal article, and the Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch. All of us need to keep reminding ourselves when you hear the term Wall Street Journal, I think Rupert Murdoch. Yes, they are literally in the Fox News building. And I'll read, one more. Morning Joe covered the ridiculousness of the wind turbines well this morning, says Biera Thom 2. Guys, I'm echoing. You guys hear that? Somebody?
Is there a phone connection open?
Oh, no, that's me. I have called into the show on the special Rush Limbaugh is dead hotline. It's Sam.
Yeah, I think I have.
Hey guys, I heard the horrible news that we can no longer do Random Rush on the program. That segment, which I don't even know, Emma, if you've ever experienced, and I feel horrible about the fact that we will not be able to do that segment anymore for any new material. We could always go back, I guess, so I guess I feel better in that respect. But I did want to call in and note the passing of Rush Limbaugh. I don't think that people or society are going to feel the impact right away, because he has not been, he hasn't been on air as much as he used to be because of his cancer. And he's not quite as relevant as he used to be because of Donald Trump. But I imagine a healthier living Rush Limbaugh would have made the next 3 or 4 years or 8 years or who knows, that much worse for the American society, maybe the world. I mean, depending on the opportunity for a war. So I think in that respect, if you're interested in a society where people care about each other and take care of the needs of as many people as possible, then you're probably happy about today. If you're one of those people who are hoping that people could bathe in their own ignorance and resent of people who are not exactly like them, then maybe you're sad. And so I just wanted to call in and say that I'm probably in the former category.
I was going to ask, right, Sam? So that's how you define yourself, right? Or are you kind of in between?
Well, I'm sad about the Random Rush thing because we had a graphic that we had already made for that, and that is very, very difficult to come by to get graphics. And so in that respect, I have regret.
So
in
much
terms
time
of everything
wasted.
else, it just, you often hear of like people say like, oh, I meant to call that person that day and I didn't. And then they died, and I feel bad about it. Well, I feel bad that I didn't spend more time critiquing the horribleness that he said over the past couple of years. And I've learned my lesson. If we start, I'm not going to pass up opportunities to critique other people who I think put toxins into our society. And that's one thing I've learned from it. But that's my biggest regret is just that whole intro that we had for Random Rush is not going to be used anymore. So that's
So two questions. One, does this mean we'll be doing more Brian Kilmeade segments just because obviously, you know, we need to milk that for all it's worth in case something tragic happens?
That's exactly my point. Yeah. I think that's well said. I would hate to look back and say, you know, someone like that passes, or maybe it's not necessarily Kilmeade. It could be a bunch of different people, and say, oh, I never took the opportunity to really critique them in the way I should have.
And my other question is, where are you right now?
I am on vacation with my kids.
Right. But are you sure you're not in, you know, within 10 miles of Rush Limbaugh's house?
I'm not saying that we went to Florida, if that's what you're asking. I would never discuss that. No, I certainly wouldn't travel by plane at this juncture because of COVID. But no, I'm not anywhere near there.
I'm just trying to see if you were implicated in his death. That's really what I'm trying to get at.
No, of course not. And, well, I mean, look, I don't know if you ever saw that movie Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, telekinesis.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
I didn't know you had that in you.
Yeah. I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying I don't know if you ever saw that movie. That's
no,
all
I mean, I'm saying that, you know, I never took you for magical and or possessed either way.
I'm not suggesting that I am. I'm just saying telekinesis. So.
All right.
Well, here's that stinger one more time for you, Sam. So hope you enjoyed that, folks. It's the last time you'll be seeing it.
Aw.
I don't know. I mean, I may deploy it once or twice when we get back. When I get back next Monday. So, you know. But I just wanted to call in, Emma. You're doing a great job. Matt, you're doing a great job. Your voices, the way that you guys have trained your voice to be so much deeper and huskier. You need scissors? Yeah, okay. I need to get my kids scissors. I was listening to yesterday's show, and you guys have really perfected your radio voices.
Yeah, well,
good work.
It was a lot smoother of a ride this show. So you picked a bad one to listen to.
Oh. No, that's all right. I thought I was enjoying it. I really was actually impressed. I was like, wow, Emma really, she's like been working on her radio voice. There's a lot of gravitas in that.
It's pretty sexist, but
good
sure.
Good luck with the rest of the show. Well, I felt the same way about Matt, but he was explaining when he got on to explain it. Then it ruined it all for me. When I realized the pitch was slowed. But enjoy the rest of the show, and I will, you know, I'm going to pour one out for Rush tonight. It's not going to be anything I would drink that I would pour out. I mean, it's probably just like
gas.
I don't know.
Gasoline.
It could be gasoline. Like, yeah. Or I sometimes save some of the old oil from that you drain from a car or a tractor, and so that I may pour that out. And then, of course, I'll put it into a bucket. I don't want to put it on the ground.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to do the grease reserve for my air fryer.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
I'll pour out my litter box. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, my cat's litter box. I don't use it.
That's a good idea, too. All right, guys.
Goodbye.
Hold up. Yeah. Don't dive too deep in that bottle.
Rest in power, Random Rush interstitial.
That I often forgot to put on, but we want to talk about.
Yeah, I love how he just called in. I didn't even admit him. He's just flexing his muscle as the boss man.
It's a very powerful
telekinesis.
Yeah, or it was just that telekinesis that he may or may not have. What'd you have in mind next, Matt?
Let's do the defund clip.
Yeah, let's start with number 5, and then we can go from there.
All right, you intro this, Amy, because I just lost the slack for some reason.
All right. Well, last night at the Biden town hall, he got a chance to show everyone how woke he is, how up he is on issues of race in America, which we all know Joe Biden is really on the cutting edge of. So someone asked him a question about how we reduce the police violence that occurs in this country, and he had a very interesting answer.
And I'm going to say something's going to get me in trouble, which I couldn't go through a whole show without doing that. And that is that, think about it. If you want to know where the American public is, look at the money being
just
spent.
pause it for a second. Pause it for a second. This is a weird way to phrase the question in the first place. Look at this question. Oh, I need to see it because I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, just start over the clip.
How can we avoid over-legislating police while also training officers to police with compassion? Like, all right, you're starting from a very namby-pamby place already, but let's see what he has to say.
That's all you need, just treating them training them to treat people with compassion.
But not too much.
That seems like a GRE question. Like I do this professionally, and it's not even clear to me what exactly over legislating police while also training. Like that's okay.
Yeah.
And never mind the fact that this is not the discourse that's happening right now. The discourse that has been happening is defund, disarm, abolish, not how do we train police officers to treat people with compassion, which has demonstrably failed every time it's been tried. But you know what? Maybe he has some fresh thoughts on the matter.
Sure. I'm going to say something's going to get me in trouble, which I couldn't go through a whole show without doing that. And that is that, think about it. If you want to know where the American public is, look at the money being spent in advertising. Did you ever 5 years ago think every second or third ad out of 5 or 6 you'd turn on would be biracial couples? No, I'm not being facetious. The reason I'm so hopeful is this new generation. They're not like us. They're thinking differently. They're more open. And we got to take advantage of it.
I want you to...
Oh, my God. Okay.
He's like your grandpa or your older dad who's just like, you see that? On TV now, and I'm a good person for pointing it out.
It's so nice. It's so nice that they're showing that on TV. Like, I guess, okay, props to whoever coached him not to say miscegenation, because he definitely didn't say that. He was probably thinking it. But like, what does any of this have to do with policing? Like, I understand he's like making the connection because he's like, oh, policing, this is a race issue. What else can I say about race? But like, I think it's very telling that this is where his mind goes, right? Because he's selling the Obama era fantasy of a post-racial America, which was already a lie when Obama was doing it. And now he's just trying the Obama playbook again, but it's increasingly ridiculous to try to do that in the era of, oh, I don't know, Charlottesville, Donald Trump, the George Floyd uprising, all of these things that show actually getting worse in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, that is so well said. And he's also less convincing at it. And you don't get to like have like automatic credibility with some small section of the audience where it's like, okay, like maybe this is Obama's lived experience. Like Joe Biden just seems like your grandpa who is entirely out of touch on this matter. And it's even worse than what you're saying in the sense that like, yes, he's trying to make these emotional appeals. And I do think that that's just the mode that he reverts back to more often than not out of habit. And he's like not going to learn new tricks at this point. But it's also an attempt to obscure him not doing anything about it. And we saw this from the leaked call to The Intercept. He is actively trying to push off acting on a federal level when it comes to criminalizing cops for murdering people that they interact with, and often it's black people. So he's using this kind of sentimentality as a shield, whether it's conscious or not. Like, I really think there are many politicians who act Machiavellian-y in a very obvious way. Ted Cruz comes to mind, somebody who makes machinations. You can see the calculations behind their eyes. Biden, I think, a lot of times just has convinced himself that he's being the good guy in this situation, but it's not the case. And he didn't even answer that stupid question. Like the question was stupid and the answer wasn't related.
You mentioned the leaked Zoom call. People should check that out with the black leaders from different organizations, because he says this exact same thing and phrases it the exact same way, where he's like, this is going to get me in trouble. And some of you might not believe it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, this is one of his like truth bombs, that noticing I mean, we talk about Trump being the television president. This is just clearly a boomer mindset thing, where the television has completely like spoiled their brains. And it is to obscure things that he actually could do. Like all of those black leaders, some of them wanted certain personnel, like, quotas basically, but the others were making very specific things like, hey, Tom Vilsack should not be ag secretary, and particularly because of what he's meant for black farmers. And Joe pivots to this weird crap about commercials. I mean, it's talk about the television, but also the abdication of things to the market, that like, because and I gotta say, like, overt I am racist and proud of it has never really been the seller here in this country. Like, of course it may have sold better in previous times, but it's always this I'm not racist, I'm just realistic about like, different people's place in societies. And so like I don't think we have, I don't know, I mean, obviously this isn't interracial commercials, like it's better than having white and blacks only commercials. Great. I mean, fantastic.
It's qualified immunity and like actually creating accountability for cops so they don't get off every single time.
Yeah, and those leaders were not asking for full abolition. They were not asking to overthrow racial capitalism. Right. They were asking for some very incremental reforms, and he couldn't even do that for a variety of reasons. But it's also just a fundamentally flawed way of looking at racism, right? He's like most liberals, he is painting it as purely the result of individual animus. This individual racial animus that's a character flaw that people have. And if people can change, then that's how we get rid of it. No, it is a structural part of what's upholding American capitalism. And when liberals love to say the word systemic racism, they love to use the structural word, but like, what does that actually mean? It means the structures and the institutions that are holding up this society, which includes the prison industrial complex. So unless you're willing to actually take a look at that and get at the roots of the problem, it's not going to go away just because people magically get less racist.
Right. Yeah. What Biden and other leading Democrats mean when they say we're going to like structure racism is like individual bigotry in cops. Like that's what they're talking about. The structures is we somehow let these people with the bad manners of racism that comes from like bad breeding or whatever, and not just economic decisions of who gets what and who has to do what labor where. Mm-hmm. It's all about it's a managerial approach to anti-racism, and it's going to fail and cause a backlash. So we need actual egalitarianism that solves these issues of like healthcare access and housing access in ways like that aren't, thank God there's, a mixed race couple in this Cheerios commercial.
Well, thank God that I appointed a black man as defense secretary, and thank God I appointed a woman as director of national intelligence. I mean, it's part of the same mentality, right? And Trump completely violated this separation between the military and our intelligence institutions. And yet I'm going to do that the same, but it's because I did it with a black nominee. So it's like totally cool, right?
It's infuriating. I don't even want to call it identity politics, because identity politics used to mean something good. It was coined and popularized by a group of black Marxist queer feminists called the Combahee River Collective, who had a class analysis of society, and they used an identity politics analysis to deepen and to improve that class analysis, whereas the Democrats are using identity politics as a shallow cudgel against the left and against actually having to do anything to solve the problems.
Yeah, representation's important, but only as important as a supplement to egalitarian overhaul.
Word. Well, there's another clip where he addresses defund again. So perhaps he will have a better answer next time. You guys want to take a look?
Sure. We'll wrap it all together in one neat little package. Biden's extremely important and thoughtful thoughts on police and racism. You got
Joe
that?
Biden solves racism.
Yeah, here he does it.
Mr. President, defund the police is discussed as an option for reforming policing. However, there are communities where people live in fear, not of the police, but in fear of the violent gangs who commit crimes in those neighborhoods. How can we be sure that we don't over-legislate police officers so that they can't do their job to protect the law-abiding citizens?
So this is where that phrasing comes from, I guess.
That they can't do their job to protect the law-abiding citizens who live in these high-crime neighborhoods, and yet train officers to police with compassion.
By number one, not defunding the police. We have to put more money in police work. So we have legitimate community policing, and we're in a situation where we change the legislation. No one should go to jail for a drug offense. No one should go to jail for the use of a drug. They should go to drug rehabilitation. Drug rehabilitation.
So can we defund the parts that are about jailing people for drug offenses, or should we?
No, he's only ending private prisons for a very, very small number of people, and not overhauling the prison system at all. And also, ICE can still use private prisons, but continue.
Drug rehabilitation, number one. We should be in a position where we change the system of sentencing system to one that relates to a notion of, they should tell you that, is related to making sure that what you do is you focus on making sure that there's rehabilitation.
Oh my God. Is this over? Have we seen enough? I have many thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead. Go all in.
Oh my God. Okay. So first of all, as I've learned from reading Alex Vitale's wonderful book, The End of Policing, gang violence has actually gone down since the 1970s, as has all violent crime, but policing continues to go up, and our prison population continues to balloon. And this should tell you something. And what it should tell you is that protecting people from violence is not the job of the police. There are other reasons for this kind of insane growth. And it all goes back, you got to follow the money. Like, there are economic surpluses. Ruth Wilson Gilmore has done a very good job explaining how the need to put this money somewhere and to create these local economies is what contributed to the ballooning of California's prison population. If you build these jails, they will fill them. Like, it is not a one-to-one correspondence. It's not a reaction to a rise in crime. Also, he pivots to talking about drug sentencing laws, right? I agree we need better drug sentencing laws. That doesn't deal with the core issue. That doesn't impact the, we need to get to people before this happens. Because, right, if they've already been sentenced, they've already had a potentially fatal encounter with the police. So we need to be reducing the number of cops on the streets, because study after study in city after city shows that that is the only way to reduce police violence against the public. Also, if you want to talk about these drug treatment programs, these diversion programs that Joe Biden touts as the solution, they are actually very carceral in practice in the way they play out. First of all, obviously, a lot of people don't sell drugs because they're drug addicts. They sell drugs because they need money. So maybe we should give people other ways to make money if you don't want them to be selling drugs, or, you know, give them some help, solve the problem, solve the root cause. But say somebody is addicted to drugs, you have to want to quit. Otherwise, it does not work. If you are forced into a program on pain of going to jail, because that's what you do if you mess up the program or you don't go. This is backed up by science. It does not work. These are not good programs. They're incredibly punitive. They're incredibly carceral. They are incredibly paternalistic. And if you don't finish, they put you back in jail. Just one anecdote, actually, a girl that I talked to, a young woman who I interviewed for a story I was working on about Ibogaine treatments for drug addiction. She is a therapist now who works with people who got clean using Ibogaine, which is a powerful psychedelic therapy. She said she got clean using Ibogaine, but she said she was in one of these programs and every single person except for her is either dead or back in jail now. It was not a good program. It was a Christian NA kind of thing where they just like put you in a schoolroom and feed you propaganda, and none of this is the answer, is my point.
I mean, killed it. Yeah. No, I want to take some calls and then we can get to that final clip. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sure.
Sounds good.
I'm glad anytime I get a chance to talk about my bailiwicks.
Hey, I want to give you the floor. All right, let's take a few calls. Let's calling from an 814 number. Who is this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Marcy. I'm calling from State College, PA. I just want to say first off that I am a Rush baby, and that means that I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh, so this is a dour, sad day. For me, it's pretty fucked. Yeah, no, I'm very sad. It's, it's going to be an adjustment. The moon is going to move farther away, of course, because of we're not as gravitationally heavy. Right, but I just wanted to talk about, well, I'm a trans woman. I've called in like twice before. It's very good to see everybody or, talk to everybody. But in January, in January, I almost got killed by the police. They almost choked me out like George Floyd. It's pretty crazy. I want to tell that story. But I saw Fetterman was on today.
Yeah.
And I got to say, before I go into my story, it just has to be said, that guy's like Pete Buttigieg. I used to be a reporter, and there was this story that came up, and I knew him, that he was going to be coming up someday. So I kept this file in the back of my mind, this YouTube clip, which is a local news station, like WTQX, whatever, reporting on this time he pulled a gun on a black guy while he was mayor of Braddock. He heard bottle rockets, assumed it was a assault gunfire, and then chased down a black guy who was just jogging, totally unarmed, and then held him at gunpoint with a shotgun loaded until the cops arrived, and then the cops helped him cover it up. So if you want to find that clip, you just type in Fetterman black jogger, or just Fetterman jogger incident or whatever, and you'll find it right away. And it's pretty bombshell.
Yikes.
I didn't realize
that. I know. No, the Rational National, David Dole's slobbering over him, and I've been fuming about him. And I've been trying to get left-wing, I've been trying to give it to some smaller left-timers, left streamers, because, they could blow up like Benjamin Dixon, but none of them understand what it is. They're all just so happy he's about weed. But would you like to hear the story?
Yes.
Or is it too dark?
I'd like to hear the story, yeah.
Yeah. So, first I just want to say, Marcavius, at Marcavius on Twitch, at Marcavius. He's a really good streamer, MarCaviiuz, Marcavius. But, so basically this is what happened. So it was basically a friend of mine on the 13th called and said, I need some help with some papers. So it was late at night already, but I was all right, I'll pull an all-nighter. So I ended up not sleeping that night. And then this hospice, like this elder care facility across the street from me, 3 times an ambulance pulled up in front of it, and they're dying. I had done an interview with some of the union heads who were doing some protests because they're getting fucking vultured or whatever. But I just couldn't take it that so many people were dying, and everyone in this, like in my county and State College, half the people don't even wear masks. It drives me. The kids are already partying again at Penn State. It's pretty horrible to see. Whenever, almost a couple 100,000 are due, at death's door if we don't actually like wear masks and shit. But I couldn't take it, so I went out into the common space, and I basically yelled at people that walked by, and then I never got close to them. I wore a mask, never threatened anybody with violence. But then some cops came, and we talked for about 30 minutes until they, and this is how the story goes. So some background in Pennsylvania, it's pretty fucked for trannies. You can't say that. That's our word. But in State College, the mayor says if you are dressed as a woman, it's indecent, especially if they can see you, like your quote-unquote imprint. So at one point they saw my print, because I don't talk. It's actually unhealthy for some reasons that are complicated. But they saw my print for half a second, and they grabbed me. And then, so it's just 2 of them, Irish fucking potato heads. I can say that I'm half Irish. Now, these I mean, I was just like roasting these 2 cops. I made them turn on their cameras. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So I made them turn on their cameras, and I was like making them laugh and shit. But then they had enough. And then more cops came, and then they put me on the ground, sideways, cuffs tight, of course, like how they do, and, arms behind my back. And then 3 officers came up and essentially sat on me. One was on my legs, one was on my chest, on my hips and lower chest, on the side. And then one was just straight up kneeling on me with the hands on my head and neck. And I couldn't breathe, and I've almost died a couple times. I've had a pretty rad life. So, I know what it's like, whenever the edges of your vision start going black, you know, and it's the black tunnel. It's not a red tunnel. It's not a black tunnel. It's the white tunnel. Or not the white tunnel. It's the, and it was closing in, and all I could think about was this one other time I died. And I was just screaming, I can't breathe, and they were just saying to me, if you're screaming, you can breathe. If you're screaming, and then I was like, do you really want another one of these things to happen? Because there's this crazy thing. There was a mental wellness check on this guy named Asazi Osaji in State College, and he got murdered on 320. That's one of the things that the DSA around here does. And they're pretty good. But
I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, do you want me to wrap it up? You can just get me off the line because it's almost done. But I can fill it. It's basically one more thing happened.
Sure.
Okay, so basically I coaxed them off of me, and then it I basically had to talk them off of me, and then I saw the EMTs come up, and I'm not bipolar. I'm not. I don't have problem with psychosis. But they shot me up with Haldol, which is actually illegal in the UK, but it's a super cheap antipsychotic, and I was like, oh, here we go. So then the sky went violet, everything got a white outline, and then I have a resistance to heavy drugs, so I could excuse me, function. But the last thing that happened is they got me up, and they put me on the gurney, and then they strapped me down on my ankles, my thighs, my waist, and then one across my chest. And they did not uncuff me. So I was just sitting on my arms on the gurney with a sweater on and tights. And then they put a heavy mask on me. Like, it was an N95, but it was like made out of like hard cardboard. And I couldn't really breathe through it. And then they put a hospital blanket on me. And somehow I made it to the hospital. I convinced them to take off the blanket, but it was like they bamboozle you. They don't give you the time. They don't have clocks up, and they barrage you with all these different questions. But they got me to the hospital, and then they threw me onto the gurney. It landed all fucking weird, and then they changed it to restraints. I wasn't resisting at all, not even once. And they restrained me kind of like with my arms up, which is like I've never heard of that, and my legs, I presume. But then they shot me up with a little more something, and I lost 30 hours, which is not good. If you know, yeah, I know. It's like if you lose 30 hours and you're a regular person, that's fucked, right? Now, if you're diabetic, like me, type 1 like me, and you're on 9 different or 11 different medications, it's no good. Anyway, I almost died, and then they locked me up in the psych ward for a week. But anyway, I'll sign off. Hashtag look up at Marcavius. But I gotta go. I got the call. Bye, guys. I'll see you around. Love all.
Thanks so much.
Trans rights, black rights, and Native people's rights, and faggot power. Bye, everybody. I can.
Oh yeah. I'm so glad you lived to tell the tale, and we need to defund these fuckers and take their power away.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I say that to everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I understand. Yeah, fuck Fetterman. Look up that video. Play it. Please watch it. He's a fucking snake.
Okay.
Bye.
Well, I don't know.
I did not know about this. I remember because my mom lives in Pennsylvania, and I was visiting her one time, and I saw a poster up in a store window that said, "For a socialist Pennsylvania, vote for John Fetterman." And there was like a hammer and sickle over him, and he was looking like a cool like motorcycle guy. And I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty cool. It was an attack ad.
I interviewed him today, and he stands for a lot of the issues that we want to push forward. And I don't think
there's a Times article on that incident.
Yeah, no, I will definitely look it up. But I thought he sounded pretty cool from the attack ad. And then I looked him up, and he was like, a progressive liberal. And I'm like, okay, that's fine too, I guess, but not as cool as the Republicans made him sound.
Yeah, no, I got that. Let me take one more call, and I think this is going to be our final call, guys. I'm sorry about that. Calling from an 818 number. 818. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Dave from Jamaica, man.
Hey, Dave.
Dave, what's up?
Hey, Matt. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Emma. I'm going to talk about something that David Griscom brought up, because when on the rare times I go on Twitter, I've seen a lot of lib types attacking the people of Texas or red states in general because of their voting decisions. And I guess I want to highlight how misguided that is. I mean, people should really be focusing their ire on people in power, the leadership, right? If we're focusing on your angst and anger on people who vote or didn't vote is a waste of time, and it's counterproductive, to say the least. And it kind of grosses me out, because I could understand that mentality like when I was 15, but I mean, these people are grown. They're like 30 and over, and you're wasting your time nitpicking people's voting decisions when if your goal was to make them vote better, you'd probably be more focused on why aren't the governors and whoever in Texas doing this and that, right? But going on and attacking the voter is so counterproductive. What's y'all's thoughts on it?
Look, I totally agree, but go on that, yeah.
Well, I mean, David Grissom's been texting me in addition to tweeting stuff. He really hates this stuff. We'll be covering a lot on Left Reckoning tomorrow night. But yeah, I mean, it's people buying in entirely to the culture war. And I mean, and it is gross to train your, like, especially people from blue states have such a weird imagination of what red states are. Like, red states are very blue in frankly most urban type areas, right? Like it is adolescent. I mean, that's you identified it. It's adolescent. It's I'm a better person than this person, mommy. Like that's all that is. And it's funny to see like very prominent like types of liberal grifters indulge in it.
And it erases a lot of like the time there's say a state like Mississippi, there's like a very large black population there. Whatever state like Texas, there's a very large Latino population there. I mean,
the Southeast, like when people talk about net payers to the federal government and like which states are takers versus makers, people need to, especially the resistance crowd that likes to traffic in that. Like it's very actually like you're not dealing with the fundamental structures of this country if you're peddling that sort of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Might I remind people also, like the single biggest predictor of whether someone votes or not is how much money they have. So disproportionately, the poor do not vote. So you really can't blame all the Republican-controlled legislatures on these people. And I feel like a lot of smug blue state liberals like to say, oh, it's the white working class, they're a bunch of slack-jawed yokels. Like, that's not true. A lot of people don't vote because they don't think it matters and they don't think it's going to do anything. And there's plenty of evidence in that column that doesn't mean that they can't get active and resist in other ways. And if you want a whole bunch of really good commentary on this fact and on, just disenfranchised people in red states, Trillbilly Workers Party talks about it a lot. And I think it was Terrence from Trillbillies put out a pretty good article recently, just really in defense of and solidarity with all of the people in his state who don't vote because they don't think it's going to do shit. And maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't, but it's a valid perspective.
Appreciate it,
right.
Dave.
I put it like this. Oh, before I go.
Yeah.
I put it like this. I put it like this. If you want to change somebody's mind, calling them dumb ain't going to be a great starting point, right? But I also think the January 6th event also has tie in it with it, because since the Biden's impulses to move past this and whatnot, not putting the blame on the leadership leaves the masses to kind of start putting the blame on each other, right? Because I've seen a lot of people avoiding that. Like, I have no problem with people making fun of Rush Limbaugh because he's kind of leadership in a way. He's a media voice. You can critique him all you want. But I think partially why this is happening is because people don't want to blame the people in power. I mean, leadership-wise. So the cogs at the bottom, the rest of us, are starting to develop our own infighting. Or is that theory too wacky, or is there something to it?
I don't think it's too wacky at all. I mean, yeah, I think
well,
you're
anyway,
on point.
That's the last bit for me. I'll hang up and hear the rest.
No, I appreciate it. Dave, always good call. Thank you so much. Guys, that's our last call of the day. Sorry about that. Hanging up. Figured out the call system today. I just want to read some IMs and then we'll head into a final clip. Someone says, Comrade Mario says, calling Fetterman a snake, which implies he's insincere in his politics, is incredibly dumb for an admittedly messed up incident that he's repeatedly apologized for. Yeah, he's definitely not a snake. I don't think his politics are insincere. I don't know enough about that incident to like speak on it, but I think he's sincere in terms of like supporting universal health care and $15 minimum wage.
Well, I thought that was the important question you asked, which is, the Medicare for all thing. And I think at this point, a senator saying I would...
It was a better answer than I thought I might get based on what I saw on, like, his website was more vague.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, again, it's... I need to see his apology, but at the same time, we're trying to build like power in terms of leftists and government.
And we have to give people room to change and grow.
And I mean, Buttigieg, I think, had serious structural issues with how he exercised power as mayor particularly like anti-black, like firing the first black police chief and other issues there. I think like, if those crop up with Fetterman, then that incident becomes a lot more relevant.
Yeah. I'm going to keep going. Hey, Emma, not watching the show right now, but it's day 3 of the crisis in San Antonio. I know multiple friends across town who haven't lost power once. Meanwhile, we had 5 minutes at a time on Monday and none since midnight Tuesday. I'm getting ready to evacuate a couple of friends with me. Keep speaking truth to power. Love what you all do. Vote Abbott for an empty fridge. I'm so sorry about that in San Antonio. Cody Pumpkin Possums wrote in. Yeah, I mean, it's just like an insanely horrible situation in Texas right now and throughout the country. I also feel like every time he says they should go to a rehabilitation program, not every person is an addict. Amy Jean from SD, South Dakota, says, I totally agree there. Like, yeah. Just because you're, say, recreationally using coke or something like that doesn't mean you need to go to a rehab for 4 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah, you hear that, parents?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Fucking love knowledge drops like that from Jamie, Kevin from Philadelphia said.
Thank you.
I know I'm not the only one, but as a minority that grew up in Wyoming, I was personally victimized and bullied as a direct result of the things Rush said on his show. The world is a slightly better place now that he is gone, says FL. Totally hear that. Speaking of beers, can I send y'all some, says Axtimus Prime. I design labels for a craft brewery and love giving it away. I don't know how we can, I would love them, but I don't, like, how can we make that happen? I don't really know.
I have a P.O. box for the Antifada. I don't know about you guys.
There's a P.O. box too. I just don't know the address. So email majorityreporters@gmail.com.
There you go. There you go.
We will accept your beer.
I think I certainly will, for sure.
We're going to get so much beer.
Yeah. I think Sam was using his carry abilities to cause all the tech problems yesterday because he was worried Emma would outshine him on her first day solo. Love you guys, says Left of the Box. Emma's DNC operative Sam Seder refuses to crack under Emma's questioning. Quinn from Indianapolis says about his suspicious whereabouts at the times of Rush Limbaugh's death. Jewish Space Laser 1, Rush Limbaugh 0, says Michael from and the final I am of the day. Where is that? I am becoming addicted to the soundboard. Sam killing Seth Rich was a job. Sam killing Limbaugh was for pleasure. From Mark Monkey. I didn't think about that. We usually do IMs last, but let's do that other clip. That was an amazing IM. Thank you so much, Mark Monkey. And then we'll have...
So let me this is Charles Gasparino. He's like a radio journalist type of blowhard guy. And he has some concerns about where corporate America is headed under the Biden administration.
It's from the ground up and it's not organized. What you have in the left here is an extremely organized attempt to influence corporate behavior. They're doing it through investing. They're using capitalism to make companies more socialist. And they do this through these shareholder votes by buying stocks in certain companies and pushing their agenda in a very concerted way.
So many of these companies, big companies here and overseas, they've got environmental divisions now, and they talk about renewables all the time, and that really has not been the case up until now. So your point is well taken. And I think we kind of answered it, right? Mm-hmm. You said the question is why, and now we know. Charlie,
I was going to say there's only one way to fight this back. Obviously, a grassroots movement, but believe it or not, Robin Hood is a way to fight back.
Good point.
It's a great point, Charlie.
And it is because you're the individual shareholder. You take your money and you vote your own shares as a shareholder instead of giving it to BlackRock.
Robinhood, that's an interesting app to pick out of all of them that you could pick, especially given the fact that they blatantly just manipulated the market in order to screw over the very little guy he's talking about there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, so two things, I think. First, to make the companies more socialist. There's one way you can do that, and that is have the workers, like, worker control of the company. That is otherwise you don't have socialism. But also,
but the biracial commercials though.
Right, and also now that these companies, and I know this firsthand, I had a brother who didn't go into the oil industry but got recruited out of college, and they do have these pitches for their environmental and sustainability initiatives. You know what those are? Those are purely HR, those are just recruitment culture. That's because they're having a tough time paying people, even with massive fossil fuel wages, to bet their career onto what our generation understands as a dying industry. So it's not that they're becoming socialists. It's that they're understanding the state of the world and climate. And yeah, I thought that was pretty great that BlackRock is the socialist spearhead.
Yeah. That's a good way though to connect Biden to it, given the fact that he's stacked or at least put a few people in his administration.
Exactly. And this is the thing about that there are capitalists that understand that, okay, we're going to respond to climate change in some fashion. Let's make sure that we're there to catch the money when it falls. And that's what these BlackRock type plays are. So, and it basically just admits that the state has a role in setting economic priorities. This isn't all just free market stuff. And that's really the problem that they have here. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was pretty ridiculous.
I mean, for the most part, if a company is doing something progressive, it is because they have been forced to by the workers or by a social movement, or, they're feeling pressure from below and they want to make it look like they're doing something.
Or it's window dressing. I mean, I'm watching the Rangers hockey game last night, right? And JP Morgan Chase is one of their sponsors, and there's all these ads for, JP Morgan Chase is great for Black opportunity, and we've been wonderful at giving Black people a leg up. I'm okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know who falls for this, and I don't know who this sways. It's just a way to perform some sort of social good when you're behind the scenes,
It's a facade.
Right, it's a facade. That's as easy.
I really enjoyed it when the NSA wished us a happy Gay Pride Day, though.
Right, yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. I think that's it. What about mediocre job, Matt, Jamie? Oh, I'm just kidding. Great job. Excellent job. Thank you, guys. Seemingly no technical glitches today. We really weathered that storm. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in.
Heck yeah. See y'all tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth